2 fully loaded jumbo jets, a fog-covered runway, one misunderstanding that killed 583 people in seconds. The Tenerife Airport disaster refers to the catastrophic collision of 2 Boeing 747 jumbo jets at Los Rodeos Airport, now Tenerife North Airport, in the Canary Islands on 27 March 1977. An accident that killed 583 people and remains the deadliest disaster in aviation history. And its story is a profound lesson about human error, communication failure, authority gradients, weather, and how small misunderstandings can combine into unimaginable tragedy. On that day, a bomb explosion at Gran Canaria Airport, the intended destination for many flights, caused authorities to temporarily close the airport, forcing numerous aircraft to divert to the smaller Los Rodeos Airport on the neighboring island of Tenerife. Los Rodeos was not equipped to handle such traffic, and soon its single runway and limited taxiways became overcrowded with large aircraft parked in unusual positions, including 2 fully loaded Boeing 747s, KLM Flight 4805, a charter flight from Amsterdam to Gran Canaria with 248 people on board, and Pan Am Flight 1736, a scheduled flight from Los Angeles to New York via Gran Canaria carrying 396 passengers and crew. As the day progressed, conditions at Los Rodeos deteriorated, with thick fog rolling across the airport, drastically reducing visibility to just a few hundred meters at times, making it impossible for pilots or controllers to see much of the runway. Communication was conducted solely by radio, and the airport lacked ground radar, meaning air traffic control had no visual confirmation of aircraft positions. Eventually, Gran Canaria Airport reopened, and aircraft began preparing to depart Tenerife. Because the airport had only one runway, it was used for both takeoffs and taxiing, requiring aircraft to backtrack down the runway and then turn around at the far end to depart. KLM Flight 4805 was instructed to taxi down the runway first, turn around, and wait for takeoff clearance, while Pan Am Flight 1736 was instructed to follow the same runway and exit at a specified taxiway before the runway end, allowing KLM to depart afterward. However, the fog made it extremely difficult for the Pan Am crew to identify the correct taxiway, and the taxiway markings and signage were unclear, especially for pilots unfamiliar with the airport. As Pan Am taxied slowly along the runway, still searching for the exit, KLM was positioned at the far end, ready for departure. At this point, pressure was building in the KLM cockpit. The captain, Jacob Van Zanten, was one of the airline's most senior and respected pilots and also a training captain, and he was concerned about duty time limits, weather delays, and keeping the flight on schedule. This pressure likely contributed to a breakdown in decision-making. As KLM prepared for departure, radio communications between the KLM crew, Pan Am crew, and air traffic control became increasingly ambiguous. The controller used non-standard phrasing, and at one critical moment, the KLM captain believed he had received takeoff clearance, when in fact he had only received clearance for the route after takeoff, not the actual permission to begin the takeoff roll. At nearly the same time, the Pan Am crew radioed that they were still on the runway, but this transmission was partially blocked by simultaneous radio communication, a phenomenon known as heterodyning, meaning the warning was not clearly heard by KLM. In the dense fog, neither crew could see the other aircraft. The KLM aircraft began its takeoff roll down the runway at full power, accelerating rapidly. Meanwhile, the Pan Am aircraft was still taxiing along the runway, unable to find the correct exit and unaware that KLM was accelerating toward them. When the Pan Am crew finally saw the landing lights of the KLM 747 emerging from the fog at high speed, they attempted to turn sharply off the runway and applied full thrust in a desperate attempt to escape, but there was no time. The KLM captain attempted to rotate early, trying to lift off and pass over the Pan Am aircraft, but the aircraft was not yet at sufficient speed. The KLM's lower fuselage and landing gear struck the top of the Pan Am aircraft, tearing it apart and igniting massive fireballs fueled by full fuel loads on both planes. The Pan Am aircraft was destroyed almost instantly, killing all but 61 of the people on board, while the KLM aircraft crashed back onto the runway in flames, killing everyone aboard. The scale of destruction was horrifying, with survivors from the Pan Am aircraft escaping through broken fuselage sections amid fire, smoke, and chaos. The investigation that followed was exhaustive and international, and it concluded that the primary cause of the accident was the KLM captain's premature initiation of takeoff without explicit clearance. But it also emphasized that the disaster was the result of multiple contributing factors, including